Several of you have already successfully completed Project 1 and are currently working on Project 2. And I wanted to take a few minutes to give you some pointers on how to be successful in Project 2. I will tell you up front that it is much more detailed and in-depth than Project 1 was, so you do need to allot more time for Project 2 compared to what you allotted for Project 1. But I am in the Project 2 directions, and I want to highlight a few items in those directions. So you're going to essentially build on your Project 1, and you're going to build that synopsis that you created out into basically a full lesson. And so, as an overview, if you can think of a lesson in a learning management system, you kind of want like a page in Canvas that kind of gives an overall introduction to the lesson that you're going to be teaching. It will include your state standards, your ISTE standards, and that type of information, kind of like an introduction and objectives. Then you would go into another page, like where we work with it at NCVPS. We call it the notes, which that's the instructional content. And so you're going to spend some time on that instructional content. You may have a pre-assessment in there. So you're going to, when you have the pre-assessment, you're going to create those test questions. So I want to skip down because you are going to be developing a lot of student-facing content for these pieces. And you're going to be developing it and explaining whether it goes in the rich text editor, whether it goes in the Canvas quiz feature, different things like that. I'm going to share some information later in the week on mastery paths that's available in Canvas that will really help some of you when it comes to this lesson, because the next piece you're going to talk about is you're going to really get into differentiated instruction and scaffolding. And so in number 2, it specifically talks about scaffolding, and we need to see in your project that you have explained scaffolding in a way that you know it, you understand it, and you're using it in your lesson to guide from the pre-assessment where students are going to go into the delivery of content, the formative activities, and this again breaks down that information. So you're going to have multiple pages to this project. The other thing I want to highlight is you get into some differentiation and you want to talk about everything specifically related to differentiation. But then you also get into what's called Tier 2 and Tier 3. And I'm not going to go into that in depth, but I do want to skip over to some of the resources for Project 2 because you're going to have to look at those in order to successfully complete this properly. So if I go into Learning Modules and I go to the Project 2 content, there is a section on differentiating instruction using technology. And so if I go into that section and go to the unit resources, about halfway down the page, there's something called Response to Intervention Action Network, and this is RTI. And this whole article captures that Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention piece. And so you're going to have to read that article. You're going to have to understand the question, what is RTI, and how to use it with technology to enhance your instruction. So that is a must for Project 2. Now, in the coming weeks, I want to give you more, but that's just kind of the overall highlights of what you need to do to start being successful with completing Project 2 in EDU-614.